Hello there, welcome back. I'm going to talk about some horror movies for Halloween. Most of these movies are quite new. There's ones from a few years ago, but the sequel's coming out in a few weeks, so I'm covering the original. But generally these are new films that you can catch either on streaming or in cinema just now. So hopefully this will give you some choices for Halloween. Hopefully they'll interest you. There's two films that have had like very mixed reaction, so I'll give you my reaction to them, and you can agree or disagree when you see them. But that's just something I'm going through these films and see, look, thought this was good, this was bad, whatever. So there we go. Oh, to be honest though, I liked all of these films to a degree. So there's not like, oh, this is horrible. Everybody know this is horrible, right? So I'll start with the new ones, the new kind of bigger releases. Okay, I'm going to start with Hellraiser, the reboot of the Hellraiser franchise. They just come out a few weeks ago. It's good. I enjoyed it. I liked the original Hellraiser. Was very disappointed in the sequels. I liked the original Hellbound Heart novella. It's one of those series that has a great premise and was never lived up to what really was going on with it. So even like something like Hellraiser 2 had some good images, which this film takes little bits from, but it still was dissatisfying. I should say now, there's going to be no spoilers in any of these films. I'm not going to spoil anything, so they'll be brief and no spoiler. Right, so Hellraiser, new Hellraiser, takes bits from Hellraiser and Hellbound, but also has its own story. It's about a girl whose brother disappears, and which is tied to the box, which has been discovered, and which leads to trying to find out what the boxes are and what's going on in the boxes, and dealing with the Cenobites. The bad thing of the film first is it's too long. It's about 2 hours long and it could have lost 20 minutes. And it's not 20 minutes in any big time way. It's just like, it feels certain scenes going too long. They could have been cut to the point a bit quicker. The pacing just feels a bit long. They'll try to build atmosphere, but I think they built the atmosphere, but then they maybe didn't have the confidence to build the atmosphere as well as they actually had. So I felt, especially in the first half, I felt the film dragging quite a bit. I think as it went on, they got more confident. But especially the first half, I felt like it was trying to do character stuff and do world building, do atmosphere. But I think in spaces, it was staying too long in certain things, and you didn't need certain things, and that was a kind of flaw for the film. But I liked the characters, all the dynamics. All the characters are sympathetic. The characters are modern without being obnoxious. Like, no one was woke in this film, if you're worried about that. Of course, it's a reboot. Nobody was annoying. People are just people. You had someone recovering from addiction. She was staying with her brother and had his boyfriend and another roommate. They were all sympathetic characters. The fact the brother was gay was not a big deal. It's just they were a couple. Who cares? And that worked fine. And they're just treated as a couple of people, just a couple who care for each other. And once the brother disappears, they'll try to find out what happened to him. So there's no annoying, types of modernisation. They're just like these characters who are very flawed, who are all working class, trying to survive in an environment that's very difficult for them. The girl has a boyfriend, the woman lead character has a boyfriend who the brother does not approve of, and he also gets involved in this Cenobite thing, and they end up in this kind of haunted house that's built by this guy who disappeared years ago and who's tied to the Cenobites in some way, and a lot of horror starts to happen in that area. You get the Cenobites come out in this area and things develop. The thing with this film is it is a reboot, but it feels like it could be within the same world as the original Hellraiser and Hellbound. It could just be a part 3. It feels like it could be you could just cut cut off the story for after part 2, Hellbound, and you get a sequel years later. You have a Pinhead, and you have other Cenobites, but you don't even really feel the need to think that, oh, this is the same character as Doug Bradley's Pinhead. It could just be, this is one of the Cenobite designs, and the leaders have the Pinhead thing. So you could have Pinhead from Doug Bradley version show up in the next movie quite easily, and it wouldn't be confusing anyway. It would just be, this is the design, a certain design of this kind of character. The Pinhead here is fine. It's a trans actor playing this part, because Clive Barker actually wanted the character to be androgynous and ambiguously sexual. And it works fine. Some people hate it. Because I read in the novella years ago, to me I always knew that, so it was never really a big deal, really. And it plays into the whole thing about the sexuality of the films anyway, so it's like, who cares? Some people care, but I thought it was fine. The actor did a good job of Pinhead. It wasn't as distinctive as Doug Bradley's Pinhead, but that's just a case of that was an actor and a part that just came together so well, so it's just one of those things. But also, I don't think the character was given as much plot motors, as much strength, but something you can build upon in a sequel. It's one of those things I would like to see a sequel. I don't think you need these characters to come back in a sequel. I think you could just have the Cenobites in another situation. But I think it would be quite good to bring the same people back who made this one to do another variation, because they seem to have worked out what they wanted to do, and they seem to get more ambitious as they go along. And they started bringing in Leviathan from the original series, and start to bring in different elements of it, but they don't feel the need to keep on repeating what's been done. It does feel like it's part of this series you were promised from the first 2 films. It does feel like that. So if you like the first 2 films and then get annoyed after that, this film could be your thing. I very much enjoyed it. I really had a good time with it, despite it being too long. As I say, I like the characters. I like the villains. I'm not going to see what happens later on, but it expands the mythology in interesting ways, in ways I was interested in seeing more of, and I would like to see more of these people making more films, because they could do some interesting things, and it expands it in a way that it could literally be either a reboot or it could be expansion of that the original universe, and ignoring what came after Hellbound. So, Hellraiser gets a thumbs up from me. It was very enjoyable. Now the controversial one. Halloween Ends. Oh boy. Some people really hate this film and some people love it. And I'm in the love category. I'm going to say straight away, you can fast forward through to the next one if you hate Halloween Ends. I really enjoyed Halloween Ends. It's my favourite of the 3 of these new ones. It's not as good as the original. I would still prefer Halloween Season of the Witch. I still prefer that one as well. In some ways, I still like Halloween 2, the Rob Zombie Halloween 2, more than this one too. But it shares a lot of things, really. And I think I found a lot of people who hated Halloween, the remake of Rob Zombie Halloween 2, hate this one too. There's something that is doing something with it, which is similar. It's all about the trauma of people who dealt with Michael Myers. And some people like that and some people don't like that. I like that. So, there we go. But this is my favourite of these 3 new Halloween films. Because it takes place 4 years later when Michael Myers has disappeared after the end of the second one. People have survived, but a lot of people depressed over what happened. There's been suicides, there's been witch hunts of other people. A character who's involved in an accident where a child died has been pretty much blamed by the whole community for the last 3 years for what happened, and he's kind of the local the person that everyone wants to get their rage out on, and it's basically about him meeting the granddaughter of Laurie Strode and them starting a relationship up. Laurie initially likes it because she thought he got a rough deal, and Laurie's trying to deal with the trauma after effect of her daughter dying and dealing with Michael Myers. So for the first half, it's about people trying to make do with what they've got, and then it starts to become more sinister. And eventually, the murders do happen, but it takes a while and it is more character based. So I think people want a Halloween film that was going to be a big, massive, all-out final finale where there's going to be lots of murders. This is not that film. It's not a film for them. If you like a character-based horror story with not much happening for a while, but it slowly builds towards something that's very character-focused, and there's some tragedy involved, there's some darkness involved, there's lots of flawed people dealing with their problems. That's what this film is. That's why I liked it. And it's not like a depressing film. It's about trying to survive darkness and trying to survive trauma, and how do you do it, how harder it is than you expect. That's what it's about. So, I mean, the funny thing was, the second film get called out for being heartless and nihilistic. The Halloween Kills. This one is that exact opposite. It's much more hopeful, even though tragedy happens. And it shows you can't really appeal to anybody sometimes, because one way or the other. But I liked this film a lot. I really enjoyed it. I'm trying not to go into spoilers, but I really, really, really enjoyed this one. It does have a lot more quieter moments, and it is much more human moments, but it does have sense of the damage done by Michael. And there is influence of another John Carpenter film from the 80s that is easy to spot, that is wonderfully done. So definitely enjoyed that. But you may hate it. But if you go in expecting a Halloween bloodbath, it's not going to be for you. Okay, so now I'm going to go to Black Friday, which was released last year, so you'll find this in streaming. Now, Black Friday is a big, silly monster movie starring Demon Sawa and Bruce Campbell, as well as a girl from Pan's Labyrinth who's now grown up. And basically, it's about these. Michael J. White's in it as well as a supporting part, but he's in and out basically. He's probably there for a week or something. I mean, no spoilers. You know Michael J. White's going to die in this film instantly. Like, he's the big guest star that brought him to die. It's obviously from the start that's what's going to happen. So it's not a surprise. I mean, I knew since I saw him, he's dead. It's basically a zombie film set during Black Friday sales, where all the customers are rushed in to get to the sales. These meteors arrive, which cause infections, and the staff of this toy shop have to kill the customers and survive the night. You know, so you have Devon Sawa as a slightly alcoholic father who's divorced from his wife. He's on well with his two daughters, but him and his wife aren't getting on, and he tries to be also casual about everything. There's a young kid who's a hypochondriac for any diseases. He's the sane one. There's a Latino office worker who's a girl from Pan's Labyrinth grown up, who's having a fling with Devon Sawa, but it's not really that serious. I mean, he thinks it's more serious than it really is. There's an older woman who's working there. You have Bruce Campbell as the guy who's in charge of the office, and he's having it like crazy in a very good way. He's got a special sidekick, this gay black guy who's just so in love with the store and the power he gets. You've got all these jokes about people who are trying to be employee of the month and all these politics of going dealing with this, basically a store that's a kid's store. So it's very enjoyable. Basically, you get the working class blues for like 20 minutes, and then you get a zombie film for the rest of it. It's not a scary zombie film. It's more of a jokey zombie film, like the later Evil Dead, really, ultimately. But it is enjoyable. You get lots of gore. You get a giant monster towards the end, and zombie monster, which you expect from this kind of thing. It's really. I mean, they're up. So there's the normal zombies, then there's a boss zombie type of thing. That they go for that kind of thing, which is not surprising. I think that came out in the trailer. It's exactly the film you think it's going to be, but that's not a bad thing. It's exactly what you want the first film to be. The performances are fun because everyone knows what film they're in. Like, they all know Bruce Campbell's going to ham it up as a boss, and then they give him his space. David Sauer plays a guy who's a bit of a send-off of the normal action guy because he's a bit of a loser ultimately. When he tries to build up to, he's trying to kind of live up to the image he has in his mind. So they work that in quite nicely. The hypochondriac has to learn to deal with diseases because he's dealing with zombies. The young woman has to deal with just the normal workday shit done to deal with zombies. So it's a fun movie. I mean, it's one of those ones you can see yourself watching every couple of years quite easily. Because the characters are fun. And you like the characters. Even the ones who die, you like them. And it's just enjoyable. Now, next we have Terrifier, which is a film from a few years ago, but there's Terrifier 2 is coming out in the next few weeks. So Terrifier 1 has now been on release on basically most of the streaming services and you're getting publicity. And this is definitely what you see. It's going cheap at the moment if you buy streaming stuff. It's one worth getting if it's only going for a few pounds because it's really strong. It's this mime clown thing called Art the Clown who's going around on Halloween killing people, just like Michael Myers, but he's like this mime comedian who's doing visual jokes. He never speaks, but he's doing jokes. But he's also, it's not a clown who is just a joke. He is a psychopath. He will kill you in horrible ways. He kills lots of people in horrible ways. And the director knows his slasher movies. And the director knows his suspense movies. So even though there's slasher moments in this film, it's a suspense movie more than a slasher movie. It's about build up, payoff, build up, payoff, build up, payoff. Some stuff happens you don't expect. There's some nice character deaths. There's some real brutality involved. It's one of those ones you don't want to watch the trailer or know that much about it. Just go in and watch it. It does work. It's exactly what you want this film to be. If you like this kind of film, which is a kind of suspense slasher movie with a dark sense of humour. The performances are fun. It's a low budget film, so some of the supporting performances will be a bit hammy. But it doesn't matter because it's part of the mood anyway, so it doesn't really matter ultimately if there's a couple of hammy performances. The lead actresses are all good. They're all enjoyable. She likes the characters as they're under pressure by this psychopath clown. The psychopath clown is inventive and is nasty and does have lots of dark humour. I definitely want to see the sequel. After seeing this one, this is a very enjoyable horror movie if you like horror movies. It's just a well-made, low-budget horror movie. One of the ones that work, because you get a lot of horror movies that are low budget and they don't work. This is the one that comes out above the pile and is like, oh, okay, this is the one to see. So, definitely watch that one. Finally, I've got Bodies, 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 which is a parody of the kind of Among Us generation. It's a kind of slasher movie tied to, like, self-indulgent, like, liberal, rich people. You know, the kind of people who have lots of money but tell you they're liberal. And it's like, are you really? I don't think you really are. You're just a person who likes to say they are to appear to be nice. It's that kind of thing where they're nasty to each other behind their backs, but they're all such great friends. And they get together to this place during a thunderstorm. They didn't plan it for the thunderstorm. A thunderstorm happens. So all these girls and the one boy played by Pete Davidson, who's a pal, and one of them brings along their aging boyfriend played by Lee Pace, who is this weird guy that no one quite understands what the hell's he about. And then people start dying, and it's like friends turn on each other because no one's sure who the killer is. And they've all known each other for years, and they've all got gripes with each other. They've all got little problems with each other. The lead character is played by the girl from Borat 2, who's this Russian immigrant who's lovers with one of the girls. And she's alone, she's not known by anybody. So she's suspicious, she's perfectly suspicious as well. And it's just slowly as people are getting knocked off one by one. And they're turning into each other one by one. It's like, okay, who's who's the killer, which one of our friends is going psycho. It's very enjoyable. It's very cynical. It's not at the top of these ones I've seen in this video, but it is enjoyable. It's probably the one I'd put at least rewatch out of the bunch, because it's once you know the twist, once you know who the killer is, and the twist is enjoyable. The motivation for the murders is enjoyable once you've figured out what it is. But I'm not sure if it's a one-off experience or if there's more depth to it, because it feels like one of those fun, nasty films you watch once in a while. But there's going to be another one in a few years, because there's no end to slasher movies who are horrible about people. There's always a cynical one every few years. I mean, a few years ago there was Assassination Nation. This one's a lot better than Assassination Nation. Assassination Nation was bloody awful. This one's enjoyably trashy and smug. It is a smug movie. There's no way around it. This is a smug movie. This is a film that maybe people think are above this genre in some ways. But it's still enjoyable. It still is nasty. It just is. Yeah, a sense that they think they're above a horror movie. There's an element of that to this film. But it's still a horror movie. So they still have the deaths. So it's fun, but it does feel a little shallow compared to the rest of the films I've covered. I mean, Black Friday, no matter how cliched it is, it's still a much warmer film than Bodies. You know. Like Terrifier, despite being nihilistic in lots of ways and how it's delivered, is a lot less smug than this film. Bodies is the smuggest film of this bunch. And it is probably the most disposable one, but it does have some originality in how it's put together. But it is a bit cold compared to other films. But the performances are fun, if not particularly deep. You know, you get a few good actors in there, and you've got some other actors who are doing shtick, but it's enjoyably done though, so it is an enjoyable film. But it's probably the most disposable. If you're a horror fan, this is probably the most disposable of the films. But I'd end by saying, give Halloween Ends a chance. Try and ignore your expectations. I know somebody was very disappointed in it, but you get what they asked for, in my opinion. I'm also kind of amused by people who hate this film. Halloween Ends is causing me a lot of amusement because I like the film a lot, but seeing people lose their mind about the film is just so funny. Alright, well, that's me for now. Hope you enjoyed this. I'll be back with some more. Right, bye for now.